Welcome to Zoe Stories. She made me pregnant. I never thought life could twist itself into something this absurd. One moment, I was living a simple, if slightly secretive, life. The next, I was teetering on the edge of a reality I could hardly comprehend. My name is Ayan, a 26-year-old graphic designer living in a cozy apartment in the heart of the city. On paper, my life was normal. A stable job, a few close friends, and a girlfriend, Mia, who is gorgeous, smart, and, thankfully, completely unaware of some of my deepest secrets. But the truth? I had a secret life, a part of myself I could never fully reveal to anyone. I was a cross-dresser, not out of necessity, but out of a deep, irresistible urge to explore the softer, feminine side of myself, a side that craved the silk of skirts, the click of heels, the thrill of seeing myself transformed in a mirror. This wasn't a casual hobby. It was a ritual, a full immersion into someone else, Samantha. Samantha was the persona that allowed me to escape the monotony of daily life, to feel beautiful, delicate, and, paradoxically, powerful. But with that power came fear. Fear of being judged. Fear of rejection. Fear of Mia discovering the truth and seeing me as less than she adored. The apartment where I lived was my sanctuary. A small, sunlit space with minimalist furniture, a plush couch, and walls lined with a few paintings I'd done myself. In a corner of my bedroom, I had my little transformation station, a vanity with lights, makeup neatly arranged, wigs in every imaginable color, and a collection of dresses, carefully chosen, carefully hidden. This corner was where Samantha came to life, where I shed Ayan and became someone completely new. Mia was the complicating factor. She had an intuitive sense of people's emotions, and she was beautiful, elegant, and playful. She didn't know about Samantha, or at least I thought she didn't. Our relationship was affectionate, flirtatious, and intensely close, but it carried its own kind of tension. Mia loved control in subtle ways, teasing me, challenging me, testing boundaries. I often wondered if she sensed more than she let on. That tension is what made today different. It started as an ordinary morning. I was sipping coffee, scrolling through emails, trying to ignore the tiny flutter of anticipation in my chest. Mia was out running errands, giving me the rare privacy to indulge in my other life. The moment she left, I felt the familiar rush, the pulse of excitement, the slight fear, the thrill of being utterly myself without eyes watching. I walked to my vanity, fingers grazing the surface of my favorite wig. Chestnut brown, silky, the perfect length to frame Samantha's face. I took a deep breath. Today, I thought, I would push boundaries. Today, Samantha wouldn't just exist in secret. She would take a step further, an experiment, a transformation into something more daring than I had ever dared before. As I applied the foundation, contouring the face to soften Ayan's sharp features into Samantha's delicate contours, I felt my pulse quicken. The lipstick, a deep rose that made my lips look lush and inviting, was more than color. It was armor. Every brushstroke, every flick of the mascara wand was a ritual, a metamorphosis that left Ayan behind. I slipped into a soft, satin dress, navy blue with a subtle sheen that caught the morning light. It clung perfectly, accentuating curves I didn't even have until Samantha emerged. I stepped into heels, the click against the wooden floor both thrilling and intimidating. Samantha stood in the mirror, confident, alluring, untouchable, yet vulnerable in ways Ayan never was. It was then that my phone buzzed. A message from Mia. Back sooner than expected. Be ready for me, winky face. My stomach dropped. My heart raced. I wasn't just Samantha now. I was Samantha in imminent danger. She was coming home, and I had to hide, or I had to be convincing enough to let the charade continue. I paced, trying to calm myself. Samantha could handle this. She had to. But the irony wasn't lost on me. The more I embraced this side of myself, the more complicated life became. Mia's playful teasing, her unpredictability, the sheer intimacy we shared, it all threatened to collapse into chaos if she discovered Samantha too soon. And then, A thought, wild, absurd, and impossible, flashed through my mind. What if Samantha could push the boundaries even further? What if I could explore intimacy with Mia in ways that were unthinkable for Ayan? The idea made my pulse spike, mingling fear and exhilaration. Little did I know, that thought was the spark that would ignite a chain of events so dramatic, so shocking, that I would question every assumption I had about reality, identity, and the line between fantasy and life itself. Because Samantha was about to take a step beyond cross-dressing. A step that would change everything. And by the end of the day, I wouldn't just be confronting a secret identity. I would be confronting a truth so surreal, so impossible, that even I couldn't have imagined it. I might be pregnant. The apartment was quiet now, the city noise muted through thick glass windows. Mia's errands had given me the rare opportunity to indulge in Samantha fully, but the anticipation of her early return lingered in the back of my mind, like a shadow I couldn't shake. Every moment I delayed my transformation was agony, yet rushing felt dangerous. One wrong move, one misstep in the carefully orchestrated illusion, and Mia would notice something was off. I stepped closer to the vanity, running my fingers along the surface where my tools lay. Lipsticks, blushes, eyeliners, powders, and brushes, the instruments of metamorphosis. Each held a familiar promise, a ritual that allowed Samantha to step forward and Ayan to retreat. Today, though, the stakes felt higher. There was something intoxicating about the thought that Samantha could exist fully, not just in secret but boldly, in ways that blurred the lines between fantasy and reality. I picked up the wig first. Chestnut brown, silky, long enough to frame Samantha's delicate face, but not so long that it became cumbersome. I held it against my own hair, feeling the texture brush against my scalp, imagining how it would transform the angular features of Ayan into something softer, more feminine. With careful hands, I adjusted it onto my head, securing it so that every strand fell perfectly into place. Next came the makeup. I started with a foundation, blending it meticulously over my skin, covering the masculine contours that still lingered. Contouring came next, cheekbones slightly heightened, jaw softened, nose refined. I felt a thrill with each stroke, as if I were sculpting a new reality. Eyeshadow, eyeliner, mascara. The eyes had to captivate, draw attention, conceal nervousness. The final touch was lipstick, a deep rose that gave Samantha lips full and inviting, contrasting sharply with the natural skin tone beneath. As I stood back to admire the transformation, I felt a shiver run through me. Samantha looked back at me from the mirror, confident, alluring, impossibly real. The difference between Ayan and Samantha wasn't just physical, it was emotional, almost metaphysical. Samantha was free in ways Ayan could never be. Free to feel, to act, to command attention, to seduce, and, terrifyingly, to be vulnerable in ways that could destroy me if anyone discovered the truth. The dress came next. I selected a navy satin number, fitted but not overtly provocative, accentuating curves that Samantha seemed to naturally possess. Slipping into the dress, I marveled at the way the fabric clung to my body, soft and delicate, and yet strong enough to convey confidence. Every adjustment I made to the hem or neckline, every smoothing of a wrinkle, was a meditation in becoming someone else entirely. Then came the heels, black, strappy, clicking against the wooden floor. The sound made my heart pound. Each step reminded me of the precarious balance I maintained. Samantha had elegance and allure, yes, but also vulnerability. One stumble, one slip, and the illusion would shatter. Standing fully transformed, I took a slow breath and examined myself again in the mirror. The reflection staring back was mesmerizing. Samantha's eyes were alive, her posture graceful, every line and curve deliberately crafted. But beneath the thrill was a tremor of anxiety, the awareness that Mia could walk in at any moment and expose me, leaving me unmasked, vulnerable, and, worst of all, embarrassed. I walked through the apartment carefully, testing the way Samantha moved. The sensation of silk against my skin, the click of heels on the floor, the sway of the dress, it was intoxicating, almost addictive. I felt beautiful, yes, but also exposed, fragile. This duality was Samantha's secret power and danger. Then came the internal dialogue, a whirlwind of excitement and fear. What if Mia sees me like this? What if she notices something odd? Would she judge me? Or enjoy this? The thought sent a shiver down my spine. Mia had always been playful, teasing, confident in ways that made me both nervous and aroused. The idea of revealing Samantha to her, even partially, was terrifying, yet thrilling. I found myself experimenting, testing the limits of the persona. A coy glance in the mirror, a subtle sway of the hips, a soft laugh at my own reflection. Each gesture brought Samantha to life further, and with her a new layer of confidence bloomed, but so did vulnerability. It was impossible to ignore the fact that every moment spent like this was a risk. The suspense escalated as I heard a faint noise outside the apartment door. My pulse quickened. Mia could return at any moment. I quickly adjusted my hair, smoothed the dress, checked the heels. Samantha had to be convincing, poised, ready for scrutiny. The tension was electric, each heartbeat a reminder of the tightrope I walked. And then the thought struck me like a thunderbolt. Today's transformation could be different. Samantha could be more than a secret indulgence. She could push boundaries further than ever before. What if I allowed her to explore intimacy with Mia? The question was both shocking and exhilarating. I felt my stomach churn with nervous anticipation, my mind spinning with possibilities I had never dared consider. The apartment felt suddenly smaller, charged with the electric mix of fear, excitement, and curiosity. I was alone, yet somehow watched by the invisible eyes of possibility, aware that my choices could ripple into consequences I couldn't foresee. Every sensation, the soft brush of fabric, the weight of the heels, the pulse of my heart, reminded me that Samantha was alive and that her next steps could change everything. The apartment hummed with silence, but my heartbeat was loud enough to echo in my ears. Samantha stood fully formed in the mirror, her reflection a siren of confidence and fragility rolled into one. Each movement was deliberate, a careful balance of grace and seduction, but beneath it all simmered a fear I couldn't ignore. Mia could walk through that door any second, and every detail, the wig, the makeup, the sway of the dress, could betray me. I perched on the edge of the couch, heels clicking softly against the floor as I crossed my legs. My mind raced with possibilities. Samantha wasn't just a persona, she was an extension of a desire I had long suppressed. She was bold, uninhibited, free. Yet the thrill of inhabiting her fully was shadowed by a gnawing anxiety. What if Mia discovered the truth? What if she judged me, rejected me, or worse, exposed me to the world? I reached for my phone and hesitated, fingers hovering above the screen. A message from Mia flashed briefly. Running late. Don't do anything I wouldn't like, winky face. The playful wink made me shiver. Was this a warning, a tease, or an invitation? The ambiguity fueled both fear and excitement. Samantha thrived in ambiguity. She thrived in moments where control was uncertain. Curiosity overpowered caution. I decided to push boundaries. Moving closer to the mirror, I studied Samantha's face in detail, the way the mascara emphasized her eyes, the soft flush of the blush on her cheeks, the slight shine of the lipstick. Each element was carefully curated, yet in this moment, I wanted to see how far I could go. I experimented with expressions, soft smiles, sultry glances, playful smirks. Each one carried power and danger. Power because they were convincing, danger because they revealed too much. What would happen if Mia saw this version of me? Unguarded, daring, unafraid? The thought made my pulse spike, the warmth in my chest a mix of excitement and dread. I stepped closer to the window, letting sunlight spill over the curves Samantha now owned. The city outside was bustling, oblivious to the quiet transformation happening within my apartment. The contrast was jarring, life continuing normally while I danced on the edge of exposure. I felt exhilaration that bordered on terror. Every rustle of fabric, every tap of my heel on the hardwood, reminded me of the stakes. Then came the internal struggle, fear versus desire. Ion would have panicked hours ago, but Samantha thrived in tension. I felt a thrill I couldn't ignore, an adrenaline that pushed me to test the limits of her persona. Slowly, deliberately, I began to move as if preparing for a social encounter, not with anyone present, but with the invisible eyes I imagined. Samantha needed to be believable. She needed poise, allure, and confidence that transcended mere cross-dressing. I practiced subtle gestures, tucking hair behind my ear, shifting weight gracefully, walking slowly across the room. The sound of the heels against the wooden floor was a heartbeat, echoing my own, reminding me that one wrong move could shatter the illusion. But I didn't stop. I couldn't. The thrill of mastery over this secret, over this persona, was intoxicating. My mind wandered to Mia. How would she react if she saw Samantha fully formed, not as a joke or tease, but as a living, breathing reality? Part of me feared judgment, part of me craved approval, part of me wondered if she might secretly admire what she didn't yet understand. The tension between wanting to reveal myself and fearing consequences was unbearable. I sank onto the floor, feeling the weight of the heels in my legs and the swish of the satin dress around my thighs. Samantha's presence was electric, consuming, intoxicating. Every moment alone, every private glance in the mirror, solidified her identity further. Yet I was acutely aware that this power came with danger. One slip, one misstep, and Mia, or worse, someone else, could witness everything. The suspense escalated as I imagined her walking in at any moment. The sound of keys jingling outside, the familiar hum of her approaching footsteps, each imagined detail made my stomach tighten. Samantha thrived under scrutiny, but fear added a layer of realism that made every move more precise, more deliberate. I glanced at the clock. Time was slipping, and with it, the fleeting solitude that allowed Samantha to exist fully. I decided to indulge in a bold experiment, approaching the living room mirror with a flirtatious tilt of the head, testing my voice, practicing subtle expressions that Ion could never pull off convincingly. The adrenaline made my fingers tremble, but Samantha's confidence carried through. Suddenly, a noise at the door made me freeze. The hair on my arm stood on end. Had Mia returned early? The doorknob jiggled faintly. My heart raced. For a second, panic clawed at me. But then, relief. Just the neighbor's cat knocking on the doorframe. Still, the near miss reminded me how fragile my secret was. One interruption, one unexpected event, and Samantha's world could collapse. I exhaled slowly, letting my hands rest on my thighs, feeling the satin fabric, the firmness of the heels. Samantha's thrill was inseparable from danger. Fear heightened desire, and desire demanded action. I was walking a razor's edge, and each step made her and me more alive. The city outside blurred in the late afternoon haze, but inside my apartment, the world had narrowed to a single pulse, mine. Samantha stood before the mirror again, but this time, the reflection felt different. Not just a reflection of Ion in a dress, but a living, breathing entity that demanded attention, demanded presence. Her eyes glinted with mischief, with desire, with the dangerous curiosity I had barely acknowledged before. I had crossed lines before, indulging in private transformations, perfecting the art of Samantha. But today, there was something more, something electric in the air that made my pulse hammer and my stomach twist. Mia's earlier text had ignited a spark I couldn't ignore. Don't do anything I wouldn't like, winky face. The playful threat now felt like a challenge, daring Samantha, and me, to test boundaries we had never touched. I ran my hands over the soft satin of the dress, feeling the curves of Samantha's body beneath. Every touch sent shivers through me. The reflection staring back no longer seemed like a mask. She was bold, alive, almost audacious in her beauty. And yet, beneath the thrill, a gnawing fear lingered. One misstep could unravel everything. The thrill of Samantha wasn't just in the clothes, the wig, the makeup. It was in inhabiting a persona that could seduce, charm, and captivate in ways Ion never could. I began experimenting with her posture, the way her hips swayed, the tilt of her head, the subtle arch of her back. Each movement was deliberate, sensual, charged with the electricity of risk. And then, temptation struck. I remembered a moment from last week when Mia had laughed at a flirty comment I'd made, the sparkle in her eyes suggesting curiosity and desire. A reckless thought flared in my mind. What if Samantha could push further? What if I could become irresistible to her in ways Ayan never imagined? The idea was intoxicating and terrifying. I walked toward the bedroom door, testing the sound of my heels on the wooden floor. The click echoed like a heartbeat, a warning that danger lingered just beyond reach. I glanced at the living room, imagining Mia walking in at any second. My stomach twisted in anticipation. The possibility of being caught, exposed, but also admired in this daring form, sent a wild thrill coursing through me. Samantha was more than a disguise. She was power, and power demanded risk. I moved closer to the window, catching glimpses of my reflection from different angles. Each glance emphasized the transformation, the soft curve of Samantha's jaw, the lush curve of her lips, the way her eyes seemed to draw attention without a single word. I felt a heat rise in my chest, the mix of fear and exhilaration making my heartbeat stutter. Then, the impossible thought hit me, one that made my breath catch. What if Mia crossed the line too? What if she wanted to test Samantha, to push her limits? My mind raced. Could she sense my hidden desire, my unspoken curiosity? Was she orchestrating a scenario that would force Samantha and Ayan into something irreversible? The tension became almost unbearable. I ran a hand through the wig, adjusting strands, feeling the silky texture as if it were armor. But Samantha's armor was fragile. One wrong sound, one creak from the floorboards, one accidental knock, and the illusion would shatter. I imagined Mia walking in without warning. How would Samantha respond? Would she cower, retreat, or take the audacious step forward? The thought made my pulse spike. The apartment seemed suddenly smaller, every shadow a potential observer, every reflection in the glass a silent witness. And then, the first real obstacle appeared. A soft buzz from my phone interrupted the tense silence. It wasn't a text from Mia this time. It was an unknown number, a cryptic message that read, "We know what you've been doing. Are you ready for the consequences?" My breath caught. My pulse thundered. Who could possibly know? How had they found out? I felt Samantha shiver, not from fear, but from the electrifying shock of danger. This was no longer about private indulgence. The stakes had escalated into something real, something inescapable. I glanced around the apartment, heart hammering. Every detail, the curve of the dress, the shine of the heels, the boldness in Samantha's eyes, suddenly carried risk. The reflection in the mirror now seemed aware, almost complicit in this new threat. Samantha was no longer merely a fantasy. She was a player in a game that could consume everything. And yet, amidst the fear, a thrill surged. Danger sharpened the senses. The thought of exposure, the risk of judgment, the intoxicating allure of testing limits. It was irresistible. Samantha leaned into the mirror, her lips parting slightly, eyes glittering with audacity. She was alive, fully alive, daring me to take the next step. Little did I know that the next step wouldn't just be a playful flirtation or an experiment in confidence. It would push the boundaries of reality, identity, and desire into something completely unexpected. Something irreversible. The cryptic message still burned in my mind, its words looping endlessly. "We know what you've been doing. Are you ready for the consequences?" My pulse raced as I held the phone, the threat feeling simultaneously real and surreal. Samantha's reflection stared back from the mirror, poised and fearless, yet beneath her polished exterior, I could feel Ayan's nerves flaring. The apartment suddenly felt smaller, charged with tension. Each sound, the faint hum of the refrigerator, the distant traffic, the soft swish of my dress as I shifted, became amplified. Samantha's world had always been private, a sanctuary where I could explore desire and transformation. But now that sanctuary was cracked, invaded by a lurking, unknown danger. I ran my hands over the satin dress again, feeling the delicate fabric hug curves that were no longer mine. Each touch reminded me of the thrill, the intoxicating power Samantha possessed. But power came with risk. The message was proof that boundaries had been crossed, that the secret life I had nurtured with care was now exposed, at least in part, to someone or something beyond my control. I needed to act, to regain a sense of control, however fragile. Samantha had to maintain composure, to be believable not just in the mirror, but in the world beyond it. I practiced subtle movements, leaning against the vanity, tilting my head, adjusting the dress just enough to appear effortless. Every gesture was calculated, a test of poise under pressure. But my mind kept drifting back to Mia. What would she think if she discovered Samantha now? Would she tease, scold, or punish me? The thought ignited a dangerous curiosity, a compulsion to test limits further, to see how far Samantha could go without tipping over into disaster. I moved to the living room, heels clicking on the wooden floor, the sound both a rhythm and a warning. Samantha's presence made each step deliberate, sensual, daring. The adrenaline was almost unbearable, the combination of threat, desire, and anticipation creating a cocktail of emotion I had never experienced so intensely. Then came a decision that would change everything. I retrieved a small package Mia had left for me weeks ago, a playful gift, a delicate lingerie set meant for an intimate night. My hands shook as I held it, feeling its soft textures, imagining how Samantha would inhabit it, how she would look and move. The thought of donning it, of fully embracing this dangerous play, made my pulse spike. The thrill was irresistible. I slipped into the lingerie beneath the satin dress, feeling its cling to my body, accentuating curves that were exaggerated by Samantha's careful transformation. Each adjustment made my heart race. The reflection in the mirror now seemed audacious, almost alive, daring me to go further, daring me to tempt fate. I began experimenting with poses, with the sway of my hips, the tilt of my shoulders. Samantha wasn't just a reflection anymore. She was an actor in a high-stakes game of concealment and desire. Each movement was a risk, yet exhilarating. The apartment, once a sanctuary, had transformed into a stage, and I was both performer and audience. The suspense escalated when I heard a faint knock at the door. My body froze.
Mia?
A neighbor? The unknown source that had sent the message? I held my breath, listening intently, feeling the heels dig into the floor. Each heartbeat was deafening. Samantha leaned into the mirror, eyes wide but steady, embodying the fearless confidence I wished Ayan could summon. The knock came again, louder, more insistent. My mind raced. I could hide. I could retreat. I could pretend Samantha never existed. But the thrill, the intoxicating pull of risk, made me hesitate. The reflection in the mirror seemed to mock my hesitation, daring me to take the next step. I made a choice. I approached the door slowly, every click of my heels a drumbeat of suspense. Samantha's body moved confidently, hips swaying naturally, posture impeccable. I reached for the doorknob, heart hammering, and swung it open, only to find an empty hallway. A folded note lay on the floor. Tonight, everything changes. Are you ready? I picked it up with trembling hands, the words searing into my mind. The message wasn't just a threat, it was a promise. Samantha's thrill surged, mingling with Ayan's fear in a tangled knot of anticipation. Whatever was coming, I knew it would force the boundaries of identity, desire, and reality to collapse entirely. The apartment felt charged, electric, every shadow alive, every reflection in the mirror a silent accomplice. Samantha leaned against the vanity, breathing slowly, poised but trembling inside. The tension was unbearable, yet addictive. I knew that the next hours, perhaps the next moments, would redefine everything: who I was, who Samantha was, and what line between fantasy and reality truly meant. The apartment seemed to pulse with a life of its own. Every shadow, every reflection, every whisper of air carried tension. Samantha stood before the mirror, fully embodied, yet the thrill of danger made her tremble ever so slightly. The note, "Tonight, everything changes. Are you ready?" had ignited a storm of anticipation and dread. Who had sent it? Was it Mia, or someone else entirely? The uncertainty was intoxicating. I ran a hand along the curve of Samantha's hip, feeling the satin dress cling to every contour, the lingerie beneath accentuating a form I could barely recognize as mine. Each touch sent shivers up my spine. The reflection staring back was no longer just a persona. It was alive, daring, seductive, audacious. But with audacity came vulnerability. One wrong sound, one unexpected interruption, could shatter everything. The temptation to push further was irresistible. Samantha moved with purpose, hips swaying, shoulders squared, every step deliberate. The thrill of inhabiting a body that could command attention, that could allure and mesmerize, was almost addictive. And yet, a part of me, the part that was still Ayan, worried about the consequences. Exposure, ridicule, judgment, or worse. I paced slowly across the living room, feeling the heels click against the floor, each step a drumbeat of suspense. I imagined Mia walking in at any second, her gaze falling on Samantha, seeing the bold transformation, recognizing the secret I had so carefully hidden. Would she tease? Punish? Embrace? The unknown was a wildfire in my chest, and I was powerless to put it out. Curiosity drove me further. I approached the vanity again, picking up a small bottle of perfume Mia had left behind. One delicate spritz, and the scent enveloped the room, floral, heady, intoxicating. It clung to Samantha's skin, to her aura, making the transformation feel almost sacred. I inhaled deeply, feeling the mixture of fear and exhilaration heighten. The apartment, silent and ordinary moments ago, now felt charged, electric, ready to explode with tension. The thrill of Samantha was no longer private. It demanded interaction. I imagined scenarios. Mia discovering the reflection in the mirror, a stranger seeing me in a fleeting shadow, a message that would forever change the balance between fantasy and reality. Each possibility heightened the suspense, made the risk more delicious, more unbearable. A sudden creak from the hallway made me freeze. The adrenaline spiked, heart hammering against my ribs. Samantha's body stiffened, poised yet ready to flee or charm. I knew it could be Mia, or worse, someone who had sent the mysterious note. I held my breath, every sense heightened. Time seemed to stretch, each second laden with anticipation, fear, and desire. I moved toward the sound, hips swaying deliberately, balancing elegance with caution. The heels clicked like a warning, a signal of both confidence and fragility. I reached the door and peeked through the peephole, empty hallway. Relief mingled with disappointment. Samantha's audacity burned within me. She wanted more, craved the thrill that teetered on the edge of catastrophe. Then came the boldest step yet. I decided to test Samantha's limits fully. Moving to the sofa, I perched gracefully, adjusting the satin dress to reveal just enough of the lingerie beneath to tempt, to tease, to experiment. The reflection in the mirror smiled back knowingly, daring me to cross lines I had only hinted at before. The phone buzzed again. Another message. Short, cryptic, terrifying.
Soon.
Be ready. My pulse raced. Whoever it was, they had anticipated my transformation, my daring, my curiosity. Samantha's thrill surged even as Ayan's fear clawed at my insides. Every touch of fabric, every tilt of the head, every click of the heels became charged with tension. The apartment felt smaller, the air thicker, as if the walls themselves were aware of the suspense, holding their breath along with me. I sank back into the sofa, legs crossed, fingers lightly brushing the satin and lace. Samantha's eyes locked with her reflection in the mirror, a silent promise that the coming events would push boundaries, challenge identity, and unravel everything in ways I had only begun to imagine. The thrill of anticipation was nearly unbearable. Every instinct screamed to retreat, but desire, audacity, and curiosity pulled me forward. The city beyond the windows continued its indifferent hum, oblivious to the storm of emotion, danger, and transformation within. But inside, time was suspended, every heartbeat echoing the tension that Samantha had cultivated. Soon, everything would change. Soon. The boundary between fantasy and reality, between Ion and Samantha, would be tested like never before. The apartment was silent, but my mind thundered. Samantha sat poised on the sofa, legs crossed, fingers nervously tracing the lace of her lingerie beneath the satin dress. The cryptic messages, "We know what you've been doing. Are you ready for the consequences? And soon. Be ready," were burned into my mind, fueling both fear and an impossible thrill. Every creak of the floorboards, every faint rustle in the hall, made my heart pound like a war drum. I knew the calm wouldn't last. It never did. Samantha's audacity had always been a magnet for attention, for temptation, for danger. And now, that danger was arriving, not in imagination, but in real, tangible form. A sudden knock at the door made me freeze. My pulse spiked, and Samantha's reflection in the mirror seemed to flare with anticipation. This wasn't a rehearsal or a private indulgence anymore. Someone was outside, someone unknown, someone who might unravel everything. I could retreat, hide, or pretend, but Samantha's thrill demanded confrontation. I took a deep breath, adjusted the dress and wig, and walked toward the door with deliberate grace. Heels clicked sharply against the floor, each step echoing the tension that had been building for hours. Peering through the peephole, I saw no one, just an envelope lying on the welcome mat. Hands trembling, I opened the door. The envelope contained a single note, elegant yet ominous. "Step into the next room. If you want to understand, truly understand, what Samantha can be, you must trust completely." My stomach nodded. Who could this be? What was waiting for me? The thrill surged, intoxicating and terrifying. I glanced at the mirror, meeting Samantha's gaze, a silent challenge. "Do you dare?" The apartment seemed suddenly smaller, every shadow a possible observer, every reflection a judge. I followed the instructions, moving cautiously toward the other room, heels clicking in rhythm with my racing heart. The unknown, the threat, the mystery, every element heightened Samantha's persona, sharpened her focus, and intensified the suspense. Inside the room, dim light spilled from a single lamp, casting shadows that danced along the walls. A small table sat in the center, a box resting atop it. The air smelled faintly of perfume, Mia's, perhaps, or someone else's entirely. Every nerve in my body screamed caution, yet Samantha's boldness propelled me forward. I opened the box. Inside lay a delicate costume, intricate, revealing, impossible to ignore. The note inside read, "Wear this. Become Samantha fully. Only then will the truth be revealed." My pulse throbbed. Fear, excitement, desire, and curiosity collided in a storm. Samantha's transformation had always been gradual, private, controlled. But now, the game was real. The stakes were immediate. The persona I had cultivated for months, or years, was about to be tested against reality itself. I hesitated. Ion's caution screamed at me to stop, to retreat, to discard the box and forget the messages. But Samantha's audacity surged, a force impossible to resist. I picked up the costume, feeling the delicate fabric slide through my fingers, imagining how it would cling, shape, and transform me. My breath caught. Every step into this room, every touch of this garment, felt like stepping onto a razor's edge. I began the transformation. Slowly, deliberately, I removed the satin dress, revealing the lingerie beneath. The box contained stockings, a corset, and intricate gloves that made Samantha more than a persona. She was now an avatar of desire, daring, and audacity. The mirror reflected the change, each detail heightening the stakes, each curve illuminated by the dim light, every shadow a reminder of vulnerability. Suddenly, a sound behind me made me spin. Someone, Mia? The neighbor? The mysterious sender of the messages was in the room. Heart hammering, I clutched the costume, half-dressed, trembling. The mirror caught movement in the corner of my eye, and for a terrifying moment, the reflection of Samantha looked almost alive, almost sentient, daring me to face the unknown. I had no choice. I stepped forward, slipping into the costume, feeling it mold to Samantha's curves, accentuating every line, every shape, every motion. The transformation was complete. I was no longer Ayan playing dress-up. I was Samantha fully realized, poised on the edge of danger, suspended between fear and exhilaration. The room seemed to hold its breath. The envelopes, the messages, the costume, they were no longer props. They were keys to something greater, something irreversible. Samantha stood in the mirror, proud and defiant, yet trembling inside. Every second was a test, every shadow a potential threat. Then the door clicked behind me. Someone had entered. My pulse skyrocketed. Samantha's breath caught. Every instinct screamed exposure, yet audacity propelled me forward. This was the moment. The first collision between Samantha's daring persona and the real world's unpredictable, unforgiving stakes. The suspense hung thick in the air, electric and suffocating. I had crossed every boundary, pushed every limit, and now the consequences were unavoidable. The next steps would determine not just my secret, but my identity, my desires, and the fragile balance between Ayan and Samantha. The click of the door behind me sent a shock straight through my chest. Samantha froze, every muscle taut, heart hammering against the cage of my ribs. The dim light cast shadows that danced across the walls, exaggerating the tension in the room. Whoever had entered was close now, but the source of the footsteps remained hidden. My breath came in shallow bursts, mingling with the metallic scent of fear and anticipation. I gripped the corset tightly, feeling its restrictive embrace against Samantha's torso, a physical reminder that once I had crossed this line, there was no turning back. The reflection in the mirror was no longer just a playful persona. Samantha was real, alive, audacious, and vulnerable all at once. A soft voice broke the silence. Interesting choice, Samantha. My stomach dropped. It was Mia. She stood in the doorway, a mixture of amusement and authority in her gaze. My heart lurched. Relief and panic collided as I realized that the threat had been orchestrated all along. Every cryptic message, every dare, every costume had been part of her game. But the reality of exposure was immediate, tangible, and overwhelming. Samantha's pose stiffened. I wanted to retreat, to explain, to somehow undo the transformation. But Mia's eyes were sharp, evaluating, daring me to embrace the persona fully. The audacity I had cultivated surged inside me. I straightened my shoulders, letting Samantha's confidence take over, masking Ayan's trembling uncertainty. Mia stepped forward, slow and deliberate. "Do you know why I left the costume? Why I sent those messages?" she asked, her tone both teasing and commanding. My throat tightened. I had no choice but to nod, words failing me as Samantha's audacity and my fear clashed violently. She circled me like a predator inspecting its prey. Every movement highlighted Samantha's transformation, the curve of the hips, the delicate sway of the shoulders, the boldness of her eyes. My reflection in the mirror seemed almost triumphant, daring me to face Mia, to face the truth of this moment. Then came the twist I hadn't anticipated. Mia extended her hand, placing it lightly on Samantha's cheek. The touch sent shivers down my spine, blending desire with fear, excitement with dread. "You're not just playing dress-up anymore," she whispered. "You've become something more. Something I need you to be." My pulse raced. The audacity that had driven me to transform now collided with the vulnerability of exposure. Every instinct screamed caution, yet every nerve in Samantha's body demanded indulgence. I tilted my head, meeting Mia's gaze, feeling the electric tension between us. The apartment seemed to shrink, the dim light suffocating, the air thick with suspense and anticipation. And then she spoke words that would change everything. "You're mine tonight, Samantha. Every secret, every desire, every thrill, It's all mine to command. The declaration sent a jolt of fear and exhilaration through me. Samantha's heart, my heart, pounded as if it would burst. I realized that the game was no longer private. The stakes were real, the consequences immediate, and the thrill utterly consuming. I moved instinctively, allowing Samantha to step closer to Mia, every movement deliberate, testing limits, balancing confidence with vulnerability. The heels clicked sharply against the floor, a staccato beat of tension. Every gesture was scrutinized, every glance weighted with possibility. My mind reeled. Was I surrendering to a fantasy? Or had Mia engineered this reality to test every hidden desire I had kept locked away? Then the unexpected happened. A sound from the hallway, another knock, this one louder, more urgent, made both of us pause. Mia's eyes narrowed. "I think we have company," she murmured, her tone edged with mischief and warning. The suspense escalated instantly. Who else knew? Who else was coming? Samantha's body reacted before my mind could catch up, stepping back, adjusting the costume, trying to maintain poise while fear rippled through every fiber of my being. The apartment, once a controlled space of transformation and thrill, now felt like a trap, every shadow and sound amplified by the unknown. And then the final twist of the moment. The door creaked open again, and in the doorway appeared a figure I never expected, someone who had been quietly observing, silently aware of the game. My breath caught. This presence changed everything, adding a new layer of danger, desire, and suspense. Samantha froze, heart hammering, body tense, knowing that every secret, every thrill, every audacious step could unravel in an instant. The room seemed to hold its breath, time stretching, every second charged with tension. Samantha faced the impossible choice: embrace the persona fully, risk exposure, and submit to the thrilling command, or retreat into the safety of Ion, leaving behind the persona she had built with such care and audacity. The figure at the doorway moved closer, and my pulse jumped. My hands trembled slightly as I clutched the delicate corset, every nerve on high alert. The room felt like it had shrunk to the size of the mirror itself, the dim light now glaringly spotlighting every curve, every subtle motion of Samantha's fully transformed body. Mia's gaze was sharp, almost predatory, and I could see her weighing every possibility, every flicker of hesitation in Samantha's reflection. She knew my fears, my desires, my secrets. And now, with another presence in the room, every secret was on the edge of exposure. The intruder stepped fully into the room, revealing a face I recognized but had never expected in this context, my close friend, someone I had trusted implicitly. My heart sank. What were they doing here? How much had they seen? Samantha's audacity surged, a boldness that demanded confrontation, yet my instincts screamed retreat. Surprised? They asked, voice calm but loaded with implication. I had to see for myself. The words were a punch to my chest. Samantha's reflection in the mirror seemed to quiver, a subtle betrayal of the confident persona I had tried so hard to maintain. The room's tension escalated to suffocating heights. I could feel sweat prickling at my temples, my stomach twisting into knots. Every instinct told me to run, yet Samantha's daring demanded that I stand my ground. Mia's hand rested lightly on my shoulder, grounding yet commanding. "You've crossed lines," she murmured, voice both warning and teasing, "but now it's time to embrace the consequences. Fully. Samantha isn't just a game anymore. She's reality." I swallowed hard, the weight of the words pressing down. Every fiber of Ion wanted to retreat, to hide, to deny the persona that had consumed me. But Samantha, bold, fearless, audacious, pulled me forward. I stepped into the center of the room, every movement deliberate, showcasing the transformation, embodying the persona in a way that was irreversible. The intruder's eyes widened. Surprise, curiosity, and perhaps a hint of judgment flickered across their face. Samantha's audacity held, masking the trembling vulnerability underneath. The heels clicked against the floor as I moved deliberately, hips swaying, shoulders poised. Every step was a challenge, a declaration. I am Samantha, fully, and this is no longer a secret I can retreat from. Then came the most dangerous moment yet. The intruder reached forward, ostensibly to adjust something or examine the costume, and the room seemed to shrink further. My pulse hammered in my ears. One wrong move, one accidental slip, and the fragile balance of control could shatter completely. Samantha's body reacted instinctively, shifting weight, tilting slightly, every gesture loaded with a mixture of provocation and fear. Mia's gaze was sharp, almost delighted. "Good," she said softly, "embrace it. This is the only way forward." My mind raced. The choice was irreversible. I could surrender to Samantha fully, navigating the dangerous thrill, risking exposure, and embracing the audacious persona completely, or retreat and risk humiliation, confusion, and perhaps losing the thrill that had defined my secret life for months. I inhaled deeply, letting Samantha's confidence dominate. The intruder stepped back slightly, unsure, and I felt a wave of empowerment mixed with terror. The persona was no longer just a reflection in the mirror. It was alive, audacious, and in command. Every subtle gesture, every sway of the hips, every tilt of the head conveyed authority, allure, and defiance. And then the intruder spoke. "I never thought I'd see you like this, but now that I have, there's no going back, is there?" The statement struck me harder than anything else. The words confirmed what I already feared and craved. Samantha had stepped beyond the threshold of secrecy into a realm where consequences were immediate, irreversible, and thrilling. The choice was made. The persona had become reality, fully, and the room seemed to pulse with suspense, desire, and inevitable revelation. I felt Mia's hand on my waist again, guiding, asserting control, yet offering reassurance. Samantha's heartbeat synced with mine, a blend of exhilaration and terror. The room held its breath, the shadows watching, the mirror reflecting every nuance. I had crossed the line. There was no turning back. And in that charged, electrified moment, the first tremor of revelation struck. The intruder reached for the envelope left at the door, slowly opening it, hinting at truths that would shatter everything I thought I knew about my secret life, my desires, and the consequences of fully embracing Samantha. The intruder's fingers trembled slightly as they unfolded the envelope. My pulse raced in tandem, each beat echoing like a drum in the stillness of the room. Samantha's reflection in the mirror seemed to hold its breath, every detail amplified: the delicate corset, the lace gloves, the shimmer of satin. Everything about the moment demanded attention, daring me to face what was coming. The note inside wasn't long. Just a few words, yet they struck like lightning. "Congratulations. You're already pregnant. Samantha isn't just a persona anymore. She's reality." My stomach twisted violently. Every nerve in my body screamed in shock, disbelief, and a terror I had never imagined. Samantha froze mid-motion, eyes wide, fingers clutching the delicate fabric of the corset. The room felt like it was collapsing inward, the walls pressing in, the shadows stretching longer, darker, more menacing. Mia's expression softened slightly, but there was no hiding the amusement behind her eyes. "I warned you," she whispered, voice low, teasing, commanding. The game was never just about transformation. It was about consequence. Now you understand what it truly means to embrace Samantha. I stumbled slightly, heart hammering, knees weak. Samantha's persona wanted to react with confidence, with audacity, but the truth, the reality, was staggering. I was no longer in control. The audacious, fearless character I had nurtured, molded, and embodied had crossed into a realm of irreversible consequence. The intruder stepped closer, their expression a mixture of shock, curiosity, and concern. I didn't know it would be this serious," they muttered, eyes darting between the reflection in the mirror and the trembling figure before them. It's unbelievable." Samantha's reflection met their gaze, eyes blazing with defiance. The persona had to assert dominance, had to maintain poise, even in the face of revelation. Every gesture, tilting the head, crossing the legs, adjusting the corset, was deliberate, signaling strength amid vulnerability. Mia circled slowly, her heels clicking against the floor, each step measured, almost predatory. "You see, Samantha," she said softly, "this is what happens when fantasy and reality collide. The thrill, the danger, the audacity, it all comes with a cost." I felt a shiver run down my spine. Samantha had always been bold, fearless in private, yet this was a boundary no one had anticipated. The costume, the makeup, the persona, they had always been thrilling experiments. Now, the thrill had consequences, tangible, irreversible, life-altering. My mind raced. Every instinct screamed retreat, denial, an attempt to reclaim control. But the reality was unavoidable. Samantha had become something more than a reflection in the mirror. She was alive, audacious, and now inseparable from me, and the truth of the pregnancy forced a new awareness of vulnerability, consequence, and identity. The intruder's hand brushed against the envelope, almost accidentally, and my pulse skyrocketed. Every second felt like an eternity. Samantha's eyes flared, defiant yet fearful, daring the intruder to look away, to step back, to accept the audacious reality that now dominated every facet of existence. Then Mia stepped forward, placing a hand on my cheek, grounding yet commanding. "You wanted thrill. You wanted transformation. You wanted Samantha to be real. Now you see the weight of that choice." The room seemed to hum with suspense, charged with revelation and consequence. Shadows danced across walls. The mirror reflected every nuance of Samantha's fear and audacity, and the reality of the situation sank in fully. I was not just Ayan playing with personas. I was Samantha fully, navigating the consequences of a transformation that had crossed the line into irreversible reality. The final moment of the revelation struck like a lightning bolt. The intruder's gaze met mine, then the mirror, then back. Their words were a mixture of awe, disbelief, and fear. "You, Samantha, this is beyond anything I could have imagined." The room froze, every sound suspended, every heartbeat amplified. Samantha's audacity held strong, but beneath it, a trembling, human vulnerability pulsed, acknowledging the irreversible truth, the pregnancy, the transformation, the consequences. The thrill had become permanent. And in that suspended moment, I realized the truth fully. Nothing would ever be the same again. Samantha had become real. Ayan had become Samantha. And the consequences, audacious and terrifying, had only just begun. The apartment felt unbearably small, every shadow and reflection amplifying the tension. Samantha's reflection in the mirror was no longer just audacious. It was vulnerable, aware, and trembling beneath the weight of reality. I could feel the pulse of my own heartbeat in tandem with hers, every thrum a reminder that nothing could be undone. Mia stepped closer, her eyes gleaming with a mix of amusement and authority. "Do you understand now?" she asked softly. "Samantha isn't a game. She's real. And so is what comes with her." The words hit me like a tidal wave. Every thrill, every temptation, every audacious step had led here. The pregnancy wasn't just a shock. It was proof that my transformation had crossed into irrevocable territory. Every instinct screamed panic, yet Samantha's persona demanded courage, poise, and a confrontation with the consequences of every choice I had made. The intruder, still frozen near the doorway, finally spoke. I don't know what to say. This is beyond anything I imagined. How did it get this far?" Their voice trembled, betraying both shock and awe. Samantha's gaze met theirs, defiant yet human. "It wasn't meant to be simple," she whispered. "Every choice, every thrill, every secret, it was mine to embrace, and now it's ours to live with." I could feel the weight of those words settle like stone in my chest. The thrill of transformation, the intoxicating power of audacity, had become inseparable from fear and responsibility. The stakes were no longer theoretical. They were immediate, irreversible, and life-altering. Mia circled me slowly, heels clicking like a metronome of suspense. "This is the moment you've been daring for," she said softly. "Now you see the reality of every choice. Every thrill has a consequence. Every audacious step has a price." Samantha swallowed, heart hammering. Every reflection in the mirror seemed to mirror the tension in the room. The pregnancy, the exposure, the irreversible transformation, it was all overwhelming. Yet there was a strange thrill in it too. The danger, the audacity, the taboo, it made Samantha's persona sharper, more alive, more real than ever before. The intruder stepped closer, voice cautious. "And now what happens? What do we do?" Samantha's reflection met theirs squarely. The audacity that had carried her through months of secret transformation surged. "We adapt," she said firmly. "We embrace it. There's no going back." The words resonated with a strange finality. Every heartbeat, every breath, every trembling muscle acknowledged the irreversible truth. Samantha was no longer just a persona. She was reality, and the consequences, pregnancy, exposure, vulnerability, were now part of her existence. Then Mia's voice, soft yet commanding, filled the room. "And one more thing." My pulse spiked. Every nerve screamed tension, every instinct alert. "You need to trust completely," she continued, stepping closer, her hand brushing lightly against Samantha's arm. "There's a path forward, but it requires everything you've become to step into it fully. No half measures. No retreats. You're already past the point of return." I shivered, feeling both fear and an intoxicating thrill. Samantha's reflection in the mirror seemed to smile knowingly, challenging me to embrace the audacious, irreversible reality. The room itself seemed to hold its breath, charged with tension, expectation, and suspense. A sudden sound from the hallway, a soft knock, pulled every nerve taut. Another visitor? Another test? The suspense skyrocketed. Mia's eyes flicked toward the door, then back to mine, a knowing glint in her gaze. Samantha's audacity surged once more, daring me to face whatever lay beyond the threshold, to embrace the unknown fully, without hesitation. And in that suspended moment, I realized the transformation, the pregnancy, the thrill, the danger, they were inseparable. Samantha had crossed every line, embraced every risk, and now faced a future that was entirely, terrifyingly irreversible. The room was silent except for the soft hum of suspense, the reflections in the mirror, and the quickening pulse of a persona that could no longer retreat. Samantha had stepped into a reality she could never leave, and every choice from here forward would be bound by audacity, fear, and the consequences of a transformation fully realized. The apartment was thick with silence, yet every sound, the faint hum of the air conditioning, the soft click of Mia's heels, the distant murmur from the hallway, seemed magnified. Samantha stood in the center of the room, fully transformed, corset tight, heels amplifying every confident sway, yet beneath it, an undercurrent of vulnerability pulsed with every heartbeat. The envelope, now empty, had revealed the shocking truth. I was pregnant. The reality of that revelation hung in the air like a storm cloud, electric and threatening. Every nerve in my body screamed in disbelief, fear, and a strange, intoxicating thrill. Samantha's reflection in the mirror caught my gaze, defiant, audacious, and trembling all at once. Mia stepped closer, a knowing smile playing on her lips. "Do you understand what this means?" she asked softly, her hand brushing lightly over Samantha's arm. "Every choice, every thrill, every secret, it's all come together. And now you have to live with it." I swallowed hard. Words failed me. The audacious persona of Samantha demanded poise, courage, and control. Yet the truth, the irreversible reality, threatened to unravel everything. My mind raced, imagining the consequences, the exposure, the reactions of friends and family, the intruder still lingering in the apartment, the unknown visitor at the door. Samantha's reflection tilted her head, a silent challenge daring me to embrace the reality fully. Every instinct screamed fear. Every impulse screamed audacity. The room seemed to shrink, the shadows stretching longer, darker, watching, judging. A sudden knock at the door shattered the fragile stillness. My heart skipped a beat. The intruder at the doorway stiffened. Mia's eyes sparkled with mischief and warning. "It seems someone else wants to join our experiment," she murmured. The sound of footsteps approaching made Samantha shift her weight, heels clicking sharply against the floor, a staccato beat of tension. Every moment was charged with suspense. Every shadow and reflection amplified the stakes. The persona I had built with audacity, defiance, and thrill now faced the ultimate test. Exposure, judgment, and consequence loomed just beyond the threshold. The door creaked open slowly. A figure appeared, silhouetted by the dim hallway light. My pulse skyrocketed. Samantha's body stiffened, heart hammering in rhythm with the echo of heels on wood. The new presence was unexpected, and the suspense became almost unbearable. Mia's voice, soft yet commanding, cut through the tension. "This is the moment. Every choice you've made, every thrill you've embraced, it all comes down to now." The figure stepped into the room, revealing an expression of shock, curiosity, and something darker, something that hinted at consequences I had not anticipated. Samantha's reflection in the mirror met theirs, audacious and defiant, yet trembling beneath the weight of reality. The room seemed suspended in time, every second stretched, every heartbeat amplified, every shadow a potential threat. I realized then that nothing would ever be the same. Samantha had become real, irreversible, audacious, and vulnerable all at once. The pregnancy, the transformation, the exposure, they were no longer hypothetical. Every choice had led here, and the consequences would ripple far beyond the walls of the apartment. A cold thrill ran down my spine. The unknown visitor, the intruder, Mia's knowing smile, they were all pieces of a game that had become reality. The stakes were higher than ever. Samantha had crossed the ultimate boundary. The persona and reality were fused, audacity and vulnerability inseparable, thrill and fear intertwined. And then, the visitor spoke, their words cutting through the tension like a knife. "I never thought it would come to this, but now that it has, there's no turning back. Are you ready to face what comes next?" Samantha's gaze met theirs squarely in the mirror. The audacity, defiance, and thrill held, but beneath it, a tremor of fear and uncertainty lingered. The reality of pregnancy, exposure, and irreversible transformation loomed like a shadow over every heartbeat. The room seemed to hold its breath. The reflection in the mirror glimmered with possibility, danger, and audacity. Every second stretched, every sound amplified, every shadow alive with suspense. And in that moment I knew the story was far from over. The consequences were only beginning. The camera would linger here, capturing the tension, the reflection, the audacity, the vulnerability. Viewers would be left questioning, what will happen next? Will Samantha be able to navigate this irreversible transformation? How will Mia's game continue? Who is the mysterious visitor, and what role will they play? The cliffhanger is complete. The suspense, the thrill, the audacity, and the irreversible consequences leave the audience on the edge of their seat, hungry for the next episode, desperate to see how Samantha navigates a reality that has permanently blurred the line between persona and truth.